Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome the Secretary General and CEO of the World Energy Council, Dr. Angela Wilkinson. Angela, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and to everyone online today, a warm hello. As the 6th Secretary General of the World Energy Council, I am delighted to be part of the 7th Renewable Latam Congress and the first ever Congress of the Uruguayan chapter of the World Energy Council. I would like to thank AUDER for hosting this important event and Rodrigo Zoer for his welcome remarks. Today's event signifies the launch of the World Energy Council's new Uruguayan member committee. The country has much to contribute and gain from our worldwide community network and our humanizing energy vision. And I'm delighted that Uruguay's energy voice is both active and being heard. We are also extremely grateful that the member committee has the full and enthusiastic support of Minister Paganini. It is a priority for us to ensure that we bridge the divides and close the gaps in global energy interests. We recently welcomed new member committees in Kuwait and the United States, and I can report that exciting discussions are taking place in Brazil and Paraguay. Today also marks the launch of Uruguay's National Future Energy Leaders Programme. I extend a very warm welcome to our energy leaders of tomorrow. You are part of a truly remarkable network, and there is a neighbouring programme in Panama. Now, my goal today, indeed every day, is to remind us that humanizing energy is the best way to avoid the urgency of global energy transition, triggering a winner-takes-all technology race to zero and create a new threat to global peace. Next slide, please. To explain, let me start with the origins of the World Energy Council and our enduring mission of better energy for all. You'll have seen this from Claudia earlier. I'll put a little different spin on it. Our enduring mission of better energy for all and our continued role as the oldest independent and impartial energy community and charity. The World Energy Council was formed back at a time when transitions to coal and oil were essential to save forests and whales, and in ushering a new era of energy for global peace. Societies at that time were grappling with recovery from a global influenza pandemic and about to experience a stock market crash followed by the Great Depression. It all sounds horribly familiar. The transition from steam power to electrification and life at the press of a button helped usher in a new era of energy for prosperity, and the promise of clean and convenient electrified uses has enabled better quality lives for billions of people worldwide. Our 100-year heritage in building the world energy community through these different eras of energy is unique, and the foundation for convening and cultivating the practical know-how and the new global common sense needed in today's era of energy for people and planet. We do not predict winners or advocate for any country, company, or technology. Instead, we focus on the power of new middle ground by building bridges between diverse energy needs and interests and addressing the growing risk of extreme polarization. Our ability to join the dots between multiple agendas and stakeholders helps us support governments, businesses, and societies to face the cross-cutting challenges, recovery from crisis, repairing our planet, and regenerating our societies. One of our leadership tools, as Claudia mentioned, is the World Energy Trilemma Index. It enables individual countries and diverse regions to learn with and from each other about what's working and what's not working in joining the dots between energy security, environmental sustainability, and energy affordability and equity. Now, a sneak peek of our upcoming 2021 index sees Uruguay as the top performer in the region, ranking in 13th place and moving up 5 places since last year's index. Neighbouring countries also performed well, with Chile ranking 37, Colombia at 36, Brazil at 28, and Argentina at 29. Now, by using the World Energy Trilemma Index to look at how countries are achieving year-on-year improvements and tracking top improvers in each category, it is possible to share learning faster across our very fragmented world and energy landscape. The attractiveness of LATAM is the low cost of renewables, which continues to fall. Even when these are free at the point of generation, however, we know that the price of technology is not the same as the full costs of running the whole energy system. As the share of renewables increases with energy demand and the use of oil and gas decline and flatten, we will evolve the World Energy Trilemma Index into a flexible framework. It will continue to adapt to the new challenges of resilience, social justice, and affordability that have emerged in meeting these challenges of recovery, repair, and renewal. A scalable trilemma with global, regional, national, and city-level indices will help leaders at all levels of society rise to the challenge of achieving greater harmony in developing energy for people and planet, peace and prosperity. This region of the world is very active in the hydrogen space, so I'd like to invite you all to take a look at our most recent Global Energy Insights brief on the hydrogen vector and value chain developments. Next slide, please. Hydrogen production is included on the government agendas of Uruguay, Brazil, Chile, Argentina, and Colombia. Indeed, most countries in the region are exploring hydrogen's potential, and the roadmaps presented to date mention interest in producing hydrogen from low-cost renewable energies for export. This next slide gives an overview of national hydrogen strategies. It's a very dynamic policy space. Next slide, please. Here we go. There you go. You can see the map. Please also take a look at the World Energy Transition Radar, which we released last year. It uses real-time signals from across the world to clarify the direction and speed of global energy transition. You'll be able to look at how pace and direction are emerging from the Latin American region and compare and contrast that with other world energy regions. Today, across the world, we see more signals for two different energy futures. One scenario called re-record, and the other is called fast forward. Now, we've learned a lot in 100 years about how the changes in energy affect our relationships with each other as well as the planet. Energy technology transition always involves societal disruption and transformation. Today, there is a lot of money being invested in big technology moonshots. I'd like to remind us that only 11 men have made it to the moon in the last 50 years, and more recently, only the super wealthy have made it to the edge of space. The world needs human-centric solutions for the many, the bottom third and the middle classes, not just the fortunate few. And I remain concerned about triggering a global technology winner-takes-all race to zero, which leaves whole regions and many communities behind and becomes a threat and trigger for conflict. We should not forget the historical role that access to energy has historically played in generating conflict and its continued lurking potential. There is no silver bullet or green technology bullet, but there is an opportunity to engage with the increasing diversity in energy as a source of learning and innovation. This is best achieved by involving more people and diverse communities at all levels of society and aiming for a future direction of more sustainable energy, climate neutrality, and social justice. You can never escape the trilemma. Swapping out old technology for new isn't the whole story. And to avoid triggering a crisis in societal transformation, energy literacy, behaviour change, and tax systems reforms will also be needed along the way. I am often asked to predict the future. What will the global energy mix look like? the next question is always, how much will it cost and who will benefit? My answers are not predictions, but practicalities. There is increasing diversity in energy in the broadest sense: resources, geographies, technologies, people and skills. There is proliferation by countries, companies and cities of net zero targets, and success is not having a net zero target roadmap or plan, but depends on the people and practicalities of road building. The essential task is to avoid the risk of cop-out by the still silent majority after the show is over. The COP26 meeting success rests on what happens after the conference itself. Now, unless people are and feel involved and feel they have real choices and options, they will simply continue to do what they have done in the past and hope someone else will fix the problem for them. It's imperative we stop shouting from the top of mountains and involve more people at all levels of society in designing and growing new energy solutions in the diverse valleys of connected energy societies. So it's really important that what happens in Glasgow later this year doesn't stay in Glasgow, just like what happens in energy transition in Uruguay can be shared and help shape what happens in the rest of the world. It is our world energy community call to humanizing energy actions in progressing successful global energy transition along multiple pathways and in ways that address the challenges of societal transformation. Next slide, please. To achieve this, we are committed as a worldwide, open to all community and charity to a step change in energy literacy, to involving more people and communities at all levels of society in generating energy transition sprints, and in actively working to leave no one behind by addressing the risk of stranded regions and communities and supporting workforce transitions. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. This is one of the reasons why the theme of the St. Petersburg World Energy Congress next year in October 2022 is Energy for Humanity. It takes place a year after the UN Energy and COP26 meetings and 100 years after we started up. It will provide an opportunity to showcase achievements from across the world on humanizing energy for people and planet, and I look forward to seeing what Uruguay brings to the table. So let me conclude with an invitation to see you all in St. Petersburg in October 2022, to share what has been achieved after COP26 and to continue these important discussions on humanizing energy and increasing harmony in people and planet. Thank you very much for your time, and I look forward to answering questions during the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thanks, Angela. Today, the energy transition and the replacement of fossil fuels with renewables for electricity generation is a relevant topic, and many countries are talking about this. How far do you think are we into this process?
Oh, one of my favorite questions. I usually start answering this question the following way. If we look at the whole energy system today, 20% of all energy uses are electrified and 80% aren't. If we look at the ambitions of net zero plans, we are hoping that by 2050, we will have 100% electrification. And that still will mean at least 50 to 60% of the energy system will be still non-electrified. That 100% renewable electrification is moving from 15% of total energy uses today to 50% of total energy uses tomorrow, at the same time as us doubling the amount of energy we're using. This is a phenomenal challenge. We're on the right track. There is a long way to go, and I'm personally committed to ensuring that we convey the message that even renewables will need other clean energy friends if we as a whole are to get everybody across the net zero line.
Thanks. The World Energy Issue Monitor highlights that energy is not a single issue agenda in the vital to maintain the connection between planets and people. Can you explain us a little about this?
Yes. So as I mentioned, the trilemma we have to balance energy security and reliability with environmental sustainability and with social equity and affordability. We can't just focus on removing and reducing carbon. We also have to make sure that we can invest and sustain the energy system and that everybody can have access to the benefits of sustainable energy. So we introduced the World Energy Trilemma Index nearly just over 15 years ago, been working on it for 15 years, and it continues to evolve. And today, I think Claudia was talking about the 5 Ds, the different global drivers of change. Well, we're also facing the challenges of the 4 Rs. We've got to recover from crisis, repair the planet, regenerate our societies, and ensure we build resilience into the system. And that's a difficult juggling and balancing challenge. There's no one single policy, and increasingly we have to coordinate policies on those different elements across different ministries in government. So the Energy Trilemma Index is designed to create a space for different policy ministries and departments to come together and talk about how well the government is performing as a whole in managing its energy transition.
Thanks. What has been the impact of COVID-19 when we talk about energy sector?
The impact of COVID-19, we've been tracking the impacts of COVID-19 around the world for the last nearly 2 years now, 18 months. I think some of the highlights are, first of all, that the COVID impact has happened everywhere across all aspects of the energy system. It's not that it's not that it's just hit oil and gas or just hit the use of transport fuels. It's also had an impact in the electricity sector. And what a remarkable job that the world has stopped, but the lights stayed on. So a big applause to our colleagues and our co-workers in many countries who have really pulled out the stops and kept the energy flowing during this crisis. What is left is a lasting legacy. First of all, there is a new context of affordability and social justice. The COVID crisis revealed that access to energy is much more uneven than anybody would wish it to be, and that some of those access gaps are incredibly critical in terms of addressing the COVID challenge. One of the most startling facts I learned was that in Ethiopia, there are 18,000 health clinics and not one of them is electrified. That makes it impossible to establish a cold chain for vaccines. So recovery from crisis will require us to address the inequalities in access in a very different way than we were in the past. The second impact we've learned from COVID is that it's extended the concept of resilience beyond critical infrastructure, as in the physical supply chain, to people and communities. And the third thing that we've learned from the COVID crisis is that there's been a massive reallocation in capital inside the energy sector, increasing into digitalization. So it's accelerating the previous trend of digitalization in energy.
Angela, thank you very much for being here. It's an honor to have you in this Congress.
My pleasure. Thank you, and good luck for the rest of the conversations.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Angela, for joining us, and Rodrigo.